Is your student stuck when it comes to writing a scholarship essay? Do they despise writing essays and they need some ideas for scholarship essay prompts? If so, I'm going to cover multiple specific essay prompts, giving you ideas on how your student can reply to them, as well as some other tips, including how to format these scholarship essays so that your student can bring in a lot of scholarship dollars with them. I'm even going to cover how students can answer those dreaded about yourself kind of questions when it comes to writing scholarship essays. Now, if you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe, because actually in the next video, I'm going to share how to reuse the same essay for all of the prompts that I cover today. So again, make sure that you click subscribe. Also, every single week you'll get a new video when it comes to paying for college. Hey there, my name is Jocelyn Pearson, founder of the Scholarship System, where we redefine paying for college so that we can help families build strong financial futures rather than ones that are ridden in debt. And we primarily focus on helping families secure scholarships. This is our bread and butter. In fact, I was able to receive 6 figures in scholarships by using these exact tips that I'm going to share with you today. So again, if your student is trying to write a scholarship essay and they are stuck, stick with me, because I'm going to give you exact responses that you can use to figure out what to write in those essays. Now, before we begin, I do want to give some general scholarship guidelines. First is to plan to reuse essays. So just a quick example, actually just this week I was talking to a family whose daughter received over $40,000 in outside scholarships. She will be graduating debt-free between what she received from the college and these outside scholarships. And they said once she got 5 or 6 core essays written, she was able to just reuse those for all of her applications. And this is not the first time we are hearing this. Another family comes to mind, Lane's daughter. She said that she only had about 5 essays that she could reuse over and over again to get to over $92,000 in scholarships. So that's the beauty of it. But first we have to know how to write these essays so they're strong in the first place. So that said, just know that reusing is possible. And not only does it save us time, but once we get it perfected, it can actually have a higher chance of winning because we know that it already won money before. Now, this is also why it's so important to have a great story to begin with. That's why in the scholarship system, we cover with our students a cheat sheet on how to identify that perfect story, that scholarship winning story that they can use in their essays over and over. So that's what we're going to focus on today, is how to really craft that story depending on the different essay prompts. So let's get into specific essay prompts. Now, again, after this, I will give you some essay formatting tips as well towards the end of today's video. But before I dive in, make sure that if you want to learn how to find these scholarships that require the essays, hint, hint, that's a huge giveaway saying that it's legitimate, so your student most likely will have to write an essay, then you can register for a free training I have below called 6 Steps to Securing Scholarships for College. I'll give you exact steps on how to find those legitimate scholarships with less competition. So again, register at the link below. So let's get into actual examples of essays that students have to write. So one of the most common ones that we'll see, and this is such a tough one because it's so broad, and it just asks, tell us about yourself. And what you'll see is that actually when we figure out these essay prompts, a lot of times we'll see these as admissions prompts as well. So if your student hasn't gone through the admissions process yet, this is going to help them with that as well. Now, when it comes to tell us about yourself, when your student is answering this question, we don't want to hear, I live here, I have a dog, just general life things. What we really recommend with this is, again, choosing that story that really has helped them identify who they are as a person. So a lot of times this can be a changing time experience or challenge in their life that really helped them decide what they want to do in their future, or really changed who they were, or maybe it made them get serious about school. So try to think in a moment versus an entire life when we're talking about tell us about yourself. Now, another thing that they are looking for here are values. So your student could even say, when they're trying to describe themselves, they could just pick a few values that are very important to them and talk about those. So we have a values power sheet in our course in the scholarship system with tons of different ideas. Now, another one is, why do you deserve this scholarship? Students hate this question because I think they think that It's obvious we need the money, right? But when they're asking this, it's more so asking about what are you going to do in your future and why? Why do you deserve this money over someone else? What are you going to do with this money that someone else won't? So that is how we want to think about this. That's why a lot of committees are asking this question. They want to see how a student is planning to take this money and do something with their lives, not just in college, but beyond as well. Now, the next one is, what do you want to be and why? This is very similar to the last two when we're talking about telling us about yourself or why do you deserve this scholarship, because it's future focused, right? So if your student does not know what they want to do yet, that's okay. I really recommend choosing maybe one or two things and focusing on that. And also, by the way, it's okay for your student to say, I'm not entirely dialed in yet, but here's what I'm thinking and why. Now, we want to make sure that we are focused on the essay prompt here, okay? A lot of students try to throw in a bunch of other stuff about their accolades and things like that, but this is, again, a very forward focusing essay. So we want to make sure that we're answering the prompt. Now, a fourth common essay prompt, and this can actually turn into fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, is tell us about a time when you displayed blank. So the fourth one I want to talk about is leadership. Now, one thing I want to share with this is a student does not have to have a badge. They don't have to have a title to display leadership. So when your student is trying to think of a story to share for this essay, then they can often think about a time that they just stepped up, a time that they took over control of a situation in order to move people forward. Maybe they help in the neighborhood with something, or maybe they help with siblings. So if they are a president of a club or captain of a football team or what have you, great. That's a great, clear leadership role. However, if they don't have those roles, you can still pull a lot of leadership experience. Now, again, you're going to see repeating themes here. Make sure this also relates to the future. So not only name a time that you've expressed leadership, but also what did you get out of it, right? What did you learn from this? Because we want to see how you're going to use this moving forward. Now, the fifth one I want to cover is very similar. It's tell us about a time that you've maybe overcome an obstacle or overcome a challenge. This is very similar to the previous ones in the sense that you can talk about a story, an experience that was challenging or life-changing, and say what you learned from it and how you're going to use it in the future. I'm going to come back to how to structure an essay a little bit, but it's very similar to what I just mentioned. But when we're talking about obstacles, we don't just want to wallow in the challenge or say how challenging it is and not show what we've done or what we've gotten out of it. Instead, what your student wants to do is not only name the challenge and the obstacle, but also show how they conquered it and what they got from it moving forward. So again, you're seeing a lot of repeating themes here, and I'm going to show you the structure in just a moment. Number 6 is, what about community service? So a lot of times they'll ask, name one of your community service involvements, or how has community service impacted you? So something around community service. And again, we always want to start with that story. We want to follow the structure that I'm going to cover. Now, with community service, a lot of times if they're asking that, you might find that that's because the organization giving the scholarship is tied to community service. So what I love about this is if that's important to that organization, what your student can do for some ideas here as well is look at their website and see what their mission is, what their values are. Does your student have a story that relates to those? If so, they can certainly use that as part of their story and their essay and relate to the organization in that way. Now, number 7 isn't a specific essay prompt, but it's those random creative essays that are just kind of off the wall. What I'm going to do is show you now in just a moment the structure that you can follow so that you can use that for any kind of essay. Don't forget to click subscribe, because in the next video, I'm going to talk about how you can reuse the same story, the same essay for all of these essay prompts. So that's going to be a huge help for any of you that are knocking out a ton of scholarship applications with your student. But before I do that, comment below, what essay prompts are you seeing? Is there something that I didn't cover? Go ahead and comment below and maybe I'll make a video on that, but at the very least, I can reply back with some ideas. So before we wrap up, let's go ahead and talk about how to format these essays. So You hear in a lot of my examples, we want to talk about a story, we want to talk about values, and we want to talk about future impact. So this is something that inside the scholarship system, we have an entire lesson on this because the structure is so important when it comes to writing a winning scholarship essay. But when we're talking about this, for a story, your student can pull any kind of impactful story, life event, maybe it is a challenge that they overcame, and they can really brainstorm a lot of those and then identify the best one. But we want to start off with a story. Now, from there, we want to pull out, what did I learn from this? Or what values did I gain from this? So maybe from a challenging experience, it helped me realize that I really value blank. Okay, so maybe it's something like I really value efficiency, or I really value family, or I really value medicine because of that experience. So you can pull out values, you can pull out lessons, you can even pull out negative lessons in the sense that it showed me I didn't want to pursue this. So these are different ideas that your student can use when it comes to that second part of the structure. So first is story, second is values or lessons, and then the third and the most important part of this is then, what will I do with this? How has it impacted me, or how has it impacted my future? What will it do for me moving forward? How will I use these values? How will I use these lessons that I learned in order to succeed in college and beyond? Again, that should sound familiar based on what I described within those essay prompts earlier. You can see that if your student has a core essay following that structure, they might be able to reuse it a little bit. Did it give you some ideas on what your student can write about in their scholarship essays? Again, comment below for me. And then also, I will cover many more tips on paying for college every single week, so make sure you click the subscribe button. Lastly, if you're having a hard time finding legitimate scholarships, if you need to build that list with your student of which ones to apply to, make sure you take advantage of that free training in the link below. It's about an hour long, and I give you specific steps on where to find legitimate scholarships with less competition. Okay, I'll see you in the next video.